Welcome to the Startup Help Desk. We're your source for answers to questions about starting companies, building companies, and the meaning of life. We have a panel here of successful founders and executives, investors and entrepreneurs who have made all the mistakes, so you don't have to make them. You can just ask us the questions. We'll share the mistakes and you can avoid making them yourself. My name is Sean Burns. I've been a founder for about 20 years of companies like Flurry and Outlier. I moved over to the venture investing side with a new firm called Near Horizon I started about 2 years ago. And I'm joined today in our illustrious panel by Ash and Nick.
Hi, everybody. My name's Ash Rust, and I'm a pre-seed investor based in San Francisco. I mostly invest in companies based in the US and the UK at the idea stage through my fund, Sterling Road. I've also worked at places like Trinity Ventures as an entrepreneur in residence and Bullpen Capital as an advisor. Before investing, I was an entrepreneur myself, most notably an early employee at the social media company Clout, as well as the co-founder and CEO of SendUp. These days, I spend most of my time coaching founders, and I've helped more than 1,500 startups over the years.
Hey, this is Nick Melionis. I'm co-founder and CEO of Navi. Our thesis is that the skills that make the best founders are the same skills that every person and organization needs to succeed in the world of tomorrow. Our solutions help them make the innovation magic happen. I've supported hundreds of startups and folks along the way. And as always, I can't wait to get into today's questions.
And all today's questions were submitted by people like you. So all of our questions here in the Startup Help Desk are submitted by the audience. If you have a question, we would love to answer it. Head over to thestartuphelpdesk.com or thestartuphd on Twitter/X and submit a question. So all the questions you hear today are from people like yourselves, and your question can be in a future episode. All these questions are about getting started. Now I know. Startups are about getting started. Why are we having an episode about getting started? All the questions we happen to get in this category here were about how do I start doing something new? And we'll go through a bunch of things that would be firsts even at a startup company. So Ash and Nick, prepare yourself for getting started, and let's get started in getting started.
I'm so ready.
Okay, first question. If I, someone in university, have got the technical skills and want to be a co-founder to someone who has an idea, what's the best strategy for me to move forward? That's a good question. There's nothing more getting started than getting started with getting started. What do you guys think? Ash?
Yeah, I think there's two interpretations for this question. I'll answer whether or not or how you should find a co-founder, because I think that's what this person's asking. So in terms of if you have technical skills and you want to find a co-founder, the mechanisms that I usually recommend are YC co-founder matching, mailing lists from your past employers and universities, those kinds of things, local meetups or maybe societies that are interesting, especially if you're still in college, like your computer science society, AI society, entrepreneurship, all those kinds of people. Usually you're looking for a friend or a friend of friend. That's going to be the best option. And once you find that person, you want to spend a bit of time working with them on a project. That's going to be the best way of testing things out. But in general, friends of friends, you're going to find them through existing places where you already have some affinity or the Y Combinator co-founder matching system.
Ash, out of curiosity, I've heard a lot about co-founder matching. Do we have any statistics on the hit rate, like the success rate of starting a company with someone who you did not previously know and really met under the auspices of becoming a co-founder? I'm really curious if we have data.
I haven't seen anything like that. I've seen that YC publishes that quite a lot of the companies in the batch actually met through YC co-founder matching. And I think that those kinds of tools end up being more of a mechanism for you to realize that a friend of friend is doing something similar rather than you finding someone that you have no connection to at all, who's on the other side of the world and has, no cultural affinity or grew up in a very different way. Like that's going to make it a lot harder. You're going to have a lot of differences on every level, but more than likely you're going to find someone that maybe is already on the same wavelength, went to the same school as yours and then in the same location, has the same friends. And that's what those kinds of matching platforms help with.
Oh, nice. That makes sense. Nick, what do you think, man?
Oh, I had one more clarifying point on that one. So after you're going through this process, how many people do you think someone typically needs to interact with in order to have some conviction that they can move forward as co-founders?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I actually tell people that you should be doing one meeting a day when you're trying to find a co-founder.
That's awesome.
And I think it's going to take at least 6 months. So we're talking about, over 100 meetings. In terms of actual candidates for being your co-founder, that's going to be a much lower number. Most of the people you interact with are just going to suggest someone else, or they're not going to be available, those kinds of things, or it wouldn't be a fit. So yeah, I think maybe you'll get 5 to 10 good candidates out of 100 meetings, but you should be doing a lot of meetings if you're planning to spend maybe 10 years working on something with this person.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about that one. And when I was getting started, I embarked on a pretty similar pursuit. There was a 6+ month stretch where I went to a hackathon nearly every weekend and was putting together new teams, building products, and ultimately just trying to immerse myself into this world and get a read on what kind of great talent is out there that you can be able to work with. And that was something that was a ton of fun, but also was an amazing way to expose myself to a large volume of great people to see what kind of things could work when it comes to finding a co-founder.
Oh, this is fascinating. So Nick, did you start a company with somebody you met that way?
I did, yeah. Yeah, so met my co-founder through a hackathon. And as mentioned, I went to, dozens of hackathons, and ultimately was able to build projects over the course of weekends in order to figure out, do we have a working cadence that can be able to fit? And I think that the hackathon ecosystem is exceptional for a lot of ways. It's also just a great way to test a 24-hour high-stress environment to figure out how do you work in a stressful pursuit while building products.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, but that's not like a normal environment though, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the only way of testing whether or not someone's going to be a co-founder is staying awake for 24 hours on a bunch of cola and just seeing with someone they just met. But I do think that you will get some information in that environment.
Yeah, it's much better to go to Burning Man and get blitzed out of your mind. That's how you really find co-founder relationships.
Right.
Oh, that is good. Well, I think that the ethos of this is absolutely find ways to work on projects together and taking the other flavor of this question. So how do you start de-risking the relationship and figuring out how you can move forward? Number one, as mentioned, work on projects together. You can do it through a hackathon. You can put together side projects. If you're still in school, there's likely challenges, startup competitions you can be able to pursue just to stress test your ability to collaborate with this person. So start there. A second thing to consider is ultimately you want to address problems with a startup that you are uniquely positioned to solve. And there's a lot that goes into that. I would say make sure you're at least testing and investigating problems that you care about. Those are the ones that you can absolutely fight for and be able to build a skill set to uniquely solve. And then lastly, continue to build your skill set. The person who asked this question is a prospective technical co-founder. And so continue to extend your advantage by building a durable skill set. And so basically that means continue building products, look at the frontiers of some of the technologies that are emerging and test your ability to build within those.
Yeah, fair enough. I would also challenge the question is, if you're looking for a co-founder who has an idea, you'll be disappointed with the quality of the average ideas most people have. And so why not explore for your own ideas and your own problems? You become a much more attractive co-founder to the great people out there if you do have insights that nobody else has. I don't think that you want to rely on somebody else to be insightful on your behalf if you can avoid it. Just my personal opinion. I realize not everybody has that spark of finding these insights and finding those ideas, but I actually think a lot of people, if they put enough effort into it, would find interesting things at least to bat around.
So true.
And solving your own problem is a great starting point.
100%.
Yeah. Speaking of problems, Ash and Nick have a very important problem named Sean, but we will get to that one later. Let's move on to our next question, Ash.
It's an important but an old problem.
Very old, very old. Okay, Ash,
all right, so the next
question.
Queue? Yeah. I'm got it. Don't worry. I've totally got this queued up.
What? I can't hear you. What?
Yeah, exactly. He's holding the iron to his ear again. All right. So, All right, question. I've got a potential customer that is super excited after seeing a demo. We haven't charged before and the product is not completely finished. What do we do? And how do we keep them interested while we finish the build? Question mark.
This is awesome. The classic trap that you can find yourself here is to continuously delay because you don't think that your product is ready, or you don't think that you're ready to impress this prospective customer. And so whatever you do, make sure you recognize that that risk exists and you're more likely to fall into that camp than to be delivering too soon. In order to address that, I would just consider a couple key constraints. Set a target date that you're striving for. Make it something that this prospective customer is interested in, but realistic. So no need to say that you're going to release it tomorrow when you're 45 days away. Set a realistic date. Advance quickly towards that date, but along the way, make sure you've got a nice way to deliver value to them. So have more conversations with them, do more discovery, test small versions of your products along the way, run pilots where you're testing some aspect of it. In short, just continuously deliver more value to them while you get closer to actually delivering on this product. I'll stop there though. Sean, what's your take?
My take, I'm confused, Nick. You and I usually agree on things really well. And what's going on? That agreement.
Oh no, what do we got here?
I don't know. There's some sort of weird impedance happening. We're not agreeing as much anymore. This is a sign of the apocalypse, or
oh no,
or something. Well, I'll start by saying
it's the new geopolitical order. Sean, have you said thank you even once during this podcast? I don't think so, and I think it's disrespectful that you would come to this podcast and act this way.
Oh, too soon. It's
not when we publish. It'll be another couple weeks.
Oh man. So first off, I think that if you have somebody who's really interested in your product and you're like, we'll get back to you, the chances that they'll still be excited when you get back to them are not high. Companies have a lot of things going on. There's a lot of noise. If you have somebody who's really interested, your product's not done, you're describing a design partner, somebody who is perfect to help iterate with you to get there. A lot of companies right now that I see that we're, especially in the era of AI and building AI products, we're building the AI part of the product, or at least getting it to work can take a while, is you engage with the company. Yes, the software is not done, but often whatever they're buying is an outcome or a service that you can help provide manually with people, you and your co-founders or your team. As you build the software behind them, will automate whatever it is you're doing to kind of bridge that last gap and learn by putting yourself in the process exactly how they plan to use it, what they need, the kind of outcomes that they need. If you sit there building because you think you know what they need and then you deliver it, guaranteed it won't be that. But if you can find a way to insert yourself in the process through some sort of combination of software and your manual effort, you're going to have a much higher chance of both landing something that works, but also learning from their perspective. Like in my my last company, at Outlier, our first customers, we used the product for them, which was a great way for us to learn exactly how the product needed to work, which is very different than we thought it needed to work. But we didn't subject the customer to that misery. We aided on their behalf. They just paid us essentially as maybe not consultants, but as a contract service to provide them these outcomes. And we used the software until the software was good enough that we didn't have to be in the middle and they could use it directly. And I think that especially if the problem is acute enough that they're willing to take a flyer on you as a new company with a new product, they probably would love to give you input. They'd love to be involved in the process of creating it. I mean, when else do you get to have a vendor shape a product around your specific needs unless you're, a huge Fortune 500 company? And so a lot of companies love to be design partners because that way they get exactly what they want. You get lessons from them. Everybody wins. And as somebody who now is in the business of helping build a lot of companies from the ground up, that's gold, actually. Finding these companies that want what you want when you're a small company, those design partners, latch onto them, don't let go, and certainly don't let them be distracted by something else.
Sean, in this case, let's say you've identified somebody. It sounds like the first piece of them qualifying as a design partner is you validated that some problem exists and the desired outcome that they want if you can solve that problem. And then from there, you're describing an incremental method to be able to start testing, learning, delivering value to them, in some cases manually, but all the while advancing closer and closer to then delivering a product?
Exactly. I think there's this false idea that product-based companies, you somehow give birth to your product in its completeness and then you start selling it. And that's almost never the case. So I actually spend a lot of time building the software when we can really be the last mile ourselves, do things that don't scale. By the way, this doesn't work beyond like 5 customers. But for those first 5 customers, if you can insert yourself and really experience the product alongside them, you're going to learn a lot faster. And by the way, you'll be able to include that in creating the product a lot faster than if you were building software, throwing it at them, seeing if it sticks, building new software, throwing it at them, seeing if it sticks.
Yeah, I'm with it. I like the sound of that.
There you go. As with podcasts, I mean, this podcast is a constant search for better refinement. We do it manually now, but in the not distant future, we'll have AI here.
That's because we have less than 5 customers.
Oh, good times. Good times. Uh-oh. We are in danger of not answering enough questions today. We can't.
Yes, we have to do this in 25 minutes, gents. Come now.
All right, let's do it.
Hook us up.
All right, let's see. This is the third question that we received from a founder. This founder asked, I think we need to hire our first salesperson, but I've never hired anyone before. How do we get started? Sean, want to take the lead here?
Yeah, I will start by saying you will hire a lot of people that you have never hired for their function before if you are successful. Maybe it's salespeople, maybe marketing people, finance people, all sorts of different things. If you never hired anyone before in your entire career, you're going to need help. You're going to need someone who actually has hired people before to help you through the process. The good news is there's a wealth of advisors that would be happy to help you. Lots of people who have been through hiring processes before, not to do it for you, but to help you learn the process and probably do it with you. And so interview people with you, design a process with you, all that kind of stuff. This, by the way, remains true as you hire new functions you never hired. The first time I hired a CFO, I didn't even really honestly know what a CFO did. And so I found some CFOs and they helped me through the process and we ended up hiring somebody that was great. And the good news is great people who are really good at their job will help you hire them. So I remember very distinctly that CFO we hired was very good at explaining exactly how they would come in and improve the organization, what we should be looking for in the right fit, because they wanted to make sure they were the right fit. And it helped a lot to get insight into how they think about it, knowing that we were not a sophisticated organization when it came to finance, because I didn't even know what a CFO did. And then finally, I think that you can't really hire anyone. This is particular to sales. You can't hire anyone in the sales side if you don't have a playbook, if you haven't sold enough yourself. I see far too many founders that are like, I finished my product. I need to hire a salesperson so they can go sell it for me. And if you have not gone out there and sold, 10, 12, 15 customers, enough that you have a playbook that you hire somebody, you can give them this playbook and say, this is how we sell it, you're not ready to hire a salesperson. I don't know, Ash, what do you got for me? Lay it on me. Where am I wrong?
So I do agree on the playbook. I think that if you can't write the end-to-end how to make a sale, if there's still gaps there, then you don't have enough information to hire somebody into that kind of role. So keep doing it yourself as a founder, even if you don't necessarily like it or you don't necessarily think you're very good at it. When it is time to hire somebody, I recommend you just try and get as many applications as you can. So post the job very, very broadly to as many people as possible. And then with all those inbound that you receive by putting it on the broad platforms like Indeed, etc., then you're going to ask those candidates to do some kind of communication work, maybe produce a deck or a sales script or record a video of how they would explain your product in some way. And that's going to filter out an awful lot of people. And then the last thing, which I know Sean loves, is I always recommend hiring salespeople, especially if they're the ones who are sort of making calls, booking leads, that kind of stuff. I recommend hiring those folks in threes because most of them will fail and you don't want to have periods of time where you have 0 salespeople.
Wait. Last time it was 2 salespeople. Now it's 3. Does that mean pretty soon it's going to be 5 salespeople at once?
Well, Sean, there's been a lot of inflation over the last couple of years.
I totally missed the tariff on salespeople, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
I mean, a lot of salespeople come from Canada, so there's a 20-30% premium now. And especially if they come from Ontario.
That's not possible. They're not nearly that nice.
So Yeah, I after that podcast last time when we did this, I definitely went around and checked with a lot of people, and I was finding genuinely that a lot of people who were hiring in twos were still having both of them fail. So we have numerous companies now where I tell them to hire in threes. I would say most people don't get three candidates all starting on the same day. Maybe they're starting within a week or two of each other. But that premise of not taking down the job description or continuing to interview people until you have three hires made, that definitely works as a mechanism to get the best SDRs in the short term. And yeah, I stand by it, even though you're completely wrong about it, Sean.
I am now going to refer to this as the Rust equilibrium, which is the point at which you are hiring enough salespeople that one succeeds, but you are not spending more than 24 hours a day interviewing and hiring salespeople. And that, whatever that point is now called the Rust equilibrium.
I think it's going to be in a lot of people's chemistry undergrads, with like Maxwell-Boltzmann theory, those kinds of things, thermodynamics. I see a lot of legs for a theory like that.
And Ash, in this case, the three hires that you're describing here, this is unique to a sales team versus other roles, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you are talking about account managers, you probably only hire those in ones and twos, and customer success people you'd only hire one at a time, no question. Because it's a funnel, obviously less and less people make it through that funnel to the end and become your real customers. But at the very top of the funnel, so SDRs are just about the cheapest possible staff member you can have at a startup. And if they're not performing, you're going to get rid of them in a couple of weeks. So it really is a very low cost experiment here.
I would actually love for Nick to hire 3 CFOs at once and let them kind of have a bake-off. So get on that, Nick.
3 crypto CFOs. Does
that exist? I think they're in jail. I think all... Oh, no. Yeah, that may be misinterpreting the Ash equilibrium right there.
No, actually, I think Ash, in crypto, you have to have 3 CFOs because 2 of them are likely to go to jail, and that way you're assured they'll have one that's free at any given time.
Oh goodness.
Okay, we should stop before we get into trouble with the new administration. And no tariffs on podcasts, please. Keep those low. So, okay, that was a lot of coverage about getting started. Remember, if you have a question you'd like to cover in a future episode, find us at thestartuphelpdesk.com or thestartuphd on Twitter/X/ whatever Elon wants to call it this week. We love to do these episodes. These episodes are made of your questions. The more questions you ask, the more episodes we have, and we certainly have a lot of fun doing it. As always, Ash and Nick, thank you for your insights and your patience.
I'm definitely not patient with you, and I'm proud of that, actually. Good evening, everybody.
Much appreciated. Thank you both.
I'm going to head over to the AARP meeting, but in the meantime, the Startup Help Desk is closed, and we will be back. But in the meantime, good luck in building your business.